going on, sports fans? It's another great episode of Seth on Sports, but today is definitely unlike any other Seth on Sports episode we've had thus far. It's my first interview, and I'm blessed enough to have tight end of the St. Louis Rams, Lance Kendricks, in the building here with me. How you doing, man?
Feeling great, man. Just happy to be here.
Man, I'm happy for you to be here, man. Well, I guess I'll just start off by asking, man, how does it feel, man?
I don't think it really sunk in yet. I think next week when I finally meet Sam, it'll really sink in. Once I actually get the playbook in my hands and get time to learn the plays and everything, I think that's when it's really gonna hit me.
Definitely, I can understand that. Let's just talk about a little bit of college, man. I know coming in, you got to sit behind a few guys and, really pick up some knowledge. You really came on in 2009, which was your junior season. Tell us about that. How was the transition of going from a guy that wasn't getting a lot of, playing time and wasn't getting a lot of attention to almost being that guy, your junior year?
Yeah, well, I think the main thing was just to build confidence. Going from just having okay games until like the bowl game, for example, when we played Miami in the Champ Sports Bowl in 2010. I think that game just set apart with me just being confident and being comfortable and going out there and just wanting to make plays and stuff.
Well, yeah, you were most definitely comfortable. 128 yards versus the Miami defense. Yeah, that was definitely a good look, and I think that kind of put a spotlight on you. It kind of almost made people take notice. And with Graham leaving Wisconsin and you still being there, I knew you were going to play a big role in 2010, but to be the leading receiver on a team as a tight end, I mean, what was that like? How was coming to the huddle, was Tozine automatically like, hey, I'm looking for you, how does that feel? And knowing that teams were keen on you, how were you able to overcome that?
Well, I think our offensive coordinator, Paul Chris, did a good job in scheming the defense as well, studying them, and giving me a good opportunity to make plays. And I think certain plays I knew when Scott was coming to me, he didn't even have to say anything. So depending on what the defense showed and whatever the play was, I can expect the ball to come out with it.
Definitely. Now, Wisconsin was more of a run-heavy team. Always been known as that,
right,
from the Ron Dane years. With John Clay being the premier running back, how was that, in the huddle with him, being able to, split? Because pretty much you guys were splitting the workload. Both of you kind of came on really strong in 2010. How was that?
It wasn't actually that bad because I think with the absence of Nick Toombs sometimes with his injuries, he sat out a few games. I think having the running game so strong and that kind of took a little bit of load off of me, so I think it balanced out pretty well.
Did you enjoy blocking for Wisconsin?
I did. I mean, as long as we got those 20, 30, 40-yard runs,
most definitely.
We couldn't complain. So.
And now a lot of Saturday mornings, you listen to the guys talk, and Lance Kendricks was the name that popped out, and it wasn't necessarily even for your passing, your catching ability. It was more for your run blocking. Do you think that had a lot to do with how professional teams, how high that they had you ranked on the tight end list?
Yeah, I think definitely, especially with me being a so-called undersized tight end, with a lot of guys being bigger than me. I think that helped me raise my stock just as much, me being an aggressive blocker, and whereas a lot of other guys that might have been bigger than me came out of a spread offense where they didn't have to block as much. So I think that really helped me stand out.
Okay, let's go to the Arizona State game. That was your biggest receiving game. You seem to be on. You and Tozine just really had it going. What was that like, knowing that this is my moment? Right. And I'm starting to shine, and I'm getting these yards, did it ever become overwhelming?
I don't think it ever became overwhelming. I think that game was sort of unique because that was one of the games where Nick Toombs was injured. And I had to take up a lot of his responsibilities. So they split me out a couple times as a single side receiver, sometimes in the slot, and sometimes on the ball. So that game was the biggest mental load that I had to know. But I think it helped me because it was a big challenge for me. It was my first real challenge of, all right, you got to take on all these roles this week. So,
right.
And I was able to capitalize. So I think that really helped me set myself apart.
Okay, that's it, man. Here with Lance Kendricks again. This is the man. Okay. When did you have that swagger moment? You know, it's a lot of talk about swagger nowadays. But what was your play that you felt like I just balled out?
I think it was the Miami game in the Champ Sports Bowl. It was a play we ran a little out and up, and I think 2 days before that game, we practiced that play like 10 times. I dropped like almost every ball. So I think going out there and making that catch and almost scoring a touchdown, I think it was like, all right, it's on now. Like, I'm ready. Let's go.
And then you went on to, of course, have a huge game. You know, let's talk more about the NFL now. You know, you're going into the NFL. What do you think is going to be the difference from college to the NFL game, besides the speed? Everybody knows the speed is definitely going to be increased, but as far as your role and what you're going to do, what do you think is going to be the major difference?
I think just taking on a bunch of plays. Obviously, the playbook doubles, if not triple. I think just learning all the plays and having a stronger responsibility than college. I think it's going to be more pressure. You know, you're playing for more people. You're playing for a bigger fan base. You're playing for you're getting paid to play now.
Right,
so it's the real deal. So I think just having that pressure on you to perform well is going to be the biggest thing.
Now there's been a lot of slack, or not a lot of slack, but there's been a lot of talk. A lot of times they say that in college, players in college care more about the game than the NFL players. Touch on that. Like, what do you feel like when people say that? Because I still feel like no matter what, it's your job and you're going to go to work. If the same as you go to a 9 to 5 and you have to go to practice and you have to go to, you know, the different games and different stadiums. And for fans, you know, who feel that way, you know, let's touch on that. Like, how does that make you feel as a player going into the NFL? You know, does that spark a more of a...
I think in some instances it's true because college players, they play for the love of the game because they don't get paid to do it. So they go out there when they're playing, it's more of a passion for each other. It's more of a team bonding thing. It's like, I want to play for the guy next to me. Whereas in the NFL, you're getting paid to do it, like I said earlier, and it's more like, you know, I'm doing this to feed my family. So it's a different type of passion. But I mean, I think it's equally just as important to NFL players and to college players.
Okay. Now, with that being said, though, how do you think the camaraderie will be with this team coming up? I mean, because I know you have some brothers on your Wisconsin team. That's one of those things that, you know, you're like you said, play for the person next to you,
right.
Whereas instead of playing for a check.
Right.
What do you think you'll miss most? I ask you that. Like, do you think you'll miss that camaraderie, or do you think that's something that you'll still gain with, you know, being in the NFL now?
I think I will miss it only because those are the guys I came in with. Those are the guys I've been grinding with for the last 4.5 years. But I think this is just a new chapter, you know. So I'm going to find more guys to be able to grind with, and more guys to bond with, and get used to playing with. And I think it's going to be the same bond. I'm going to miss it, but I think it's the timing is right for a new chapter, and you know, just to move on and just to, you know, start something new.
Most definitely. Like I said, man, Lance Kendricks is here. You know, he's in the building. I'm going to keep saying his name because, hey, you got to hear it. You're going to hear it every Sunday anyway. That's my prediction. I don't care what y'all think. But what do you feel about how St. Louis handled the rest of the draft? Like, do you think a lot of the players that they're bringing in along with you are going to be some impact players? Do you feel like that this draft really might set them apart? Because I actually had them in my top 5 as far as their picks, you know, outside of, I think the Lions had another fair draft, which that is another team going to come up. But I feel like, you know, you guys in the Lions received so much slack in the past few years because of, you know, the records, and it's been a turnaround. So do you think that it's finally, you know, starting to kick in, especially with this draft class? What do you think about the draft class?
I looked online, ironically, and I noticed every website or whatever gave the Rams an A for the draft class. So, and personally, I mean, I think this was the best draft class that they could have had with Quinn, a big time DN out of North Carolina.
Who dropped? Drops.
Yeah.
Like he dropped in the lap.
Exactly. So him, and then picking up Austin Pace, whom I met at the Senior Bowl, and he's a great receiver. And then we got Greg Salas, who's also I think he had 3 consecutive years of 100 yards.
Yep.
Yeah, 100 catches, receptions.
Year. Yep.
So, I mean, I think with all of us, I think it's just, it was perfect.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. So I guess to kind of sum things up, man, you know, how, like, besides, you know, your personal feelings, what do you want the fans to know? What do you want to tell the fans and the people who you're going to have to play against every Sunday?
I mean, I think that this year is going to be a turnaround year for St. Louis. I think last year was a good coming out for, you know, St. Louis as far as new quarterback, kind of a fresh start kind of feel. I think with the emergence of Josh McDaniels as an offensive coordinator, I think that's going to also spark some life into the offense and to the team, the entire team. And I know that our defense has some leaders like James Laurinaitis, who's also a great player. And he's been good. He's been, you know, texting me and keeping me, you know, in tune with everything. So.
You're being real polite to him, considering he's a Buckeye.
I play on the same team with him now, so
yeah, man. But again, man, I really just want to thank you, man. You know, I've known you for a while. You know, from soccer, from kids. You know, that was the last time I was able to beat them in anything. But yeah, man. Just thank you. You know, Seth on Sports loves you. You have our support, man. We'll definitely keep highlighting you, and anytime you want to come talk to us, more than, you know, feel free to use us as your outlet. But it's been another episode. Like I said, this was a special episode. I'm Mr. SOS, but this is Lance Kendricks. All right? Stay tuned with us. Probably see you again Tuesday night down at One Sports Lounge. See you.